Okay, so here's Daniele Besomi, starting now.
All right. First, let me say that I'm not a lexicographer, which will probably explain why I might say something which might sound trivial to you. And, well, I also completely lack any knowledge of lexicographer theory. And moreover, I'm going to talk more about encyclopedias rather than dictionaries. I'm taking a very long way approach because I'm particularly interested in what the early encyclopedists wanted to do. That is, not only represent knowledge, which is what most encyclopedias do nowadays, but they also wanted to organize knowledge. And they used to do so in graphical terms. First, we had the image of the mirror, which reflected the epistemology according to which God created the world, and the encyclopedist and the book and the encyclopedist had to reproduce to mirror that kind of order. Then they came ladders of increasing perfection. Here are a couple of examples. Then later in the 18th century, encyclopedias started to take up the Baconian division of classification of knowledge. So we have this in Chambers' Encyclopedia. And what I'm going to be more interested in is this example in Diderot and D'Alembert encyclopedia. This is clearly a tree structure. We can see in they originally had the diagram dividing things, and which was very faithfully represented in terms of a tree later on. In spite of having this very linear presentation of classification and presentation of knowledge, both Diderot and D'Alembert had clearly the idea that things are much more complicated than that. So the tree-like structure we just saw was described by D'Alembert as a kind of a word map where the principal country, their position and their mutual dependency, the road that leads directly from one to the other are represented. But very quickly, he explained that this is a very, very sketchy picture of what is going on, because in reality, a more accurate image would be a map or a labyrinth, because actually there are a lot of connections between entries that make more and more kind of readings possible. This they try to do by means, they could no longer do it graphically, and they try to represent that by means of a system of cross-references. They both stress that their cross-references were not the simple one used by the other dictionaries of the time, which are mostly the explanatory references, but they also contained material references, which is what nowadays we find in the see also part of dictionaries, plus references of genius, that is, references suggesting new speculative truths by imagining fanciful conjecture and drawing suggestive connection between distant fields, plus also satirical or epigrammatical references in order to deride certain truths that were truths and prejudices that were widely believed in. Diderot and D'Alembert encyclopedic project was a bit too revolutionary for the time, and indeed it was very quickly abandoned. Very soon, encyclopedia turned into well. First, they stressed more the systematic part than the alphabetical part, but very soon they turned into tools for representing and transmitting knowledge in fragmented parts. Only towards the third quarter of the 20th century, there has been some taking up the old problem. The Britannica, for instance, was divided in three parts: a micropedia, macropedia, and a propedia, that is an outline of knowledge. The Encyclopedia Universalis was divided in three parts: the corpus, the organum, and the thesaurus. And in the organum, we find this kind of graphical representation of the various possible connection between topics. The Encyclopedia Inaudi, also published in the 70s, draws this kind of gray areas where the various entries are connected. So this is all very promising, and one would expect that with the internet and the IT, we could find something like that translated into something more modern. Unfortunately, this is not the case. The Britannica was very skeptical about the internet at first, and still nowadays, if we read the encyclopedia entry in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Universalis believes that the internet is going to destroy the idea of encyclopedia, but nonetheless they published this. There is a very tree-like organization of knowledge. Here is an example following some parts of economics, really a tree structure. So we are back to square one, in spite of having the tools for trying to solve this problem. What I'm suggesting now, what I'm proposing now is, Wikipedia is actually even randomizing the tree, because in some of the cladistic presentation they have, basically they are practically useless if you look at them from a professional point of view. What I'm going to do is to try to give another visual presentation of the old problem raised by Diderot and D'Alembert by means of this thing which I've called En-cycle-pedia. Well, the name comes from the fact that being an economist and being specialized in theories of business cycles, I've taken the word cycle and put it in. This stresses both the idea of cycle in the etymology of encyclopedia and of business cycles. So the idea is to have each article of the encyclopedia represented in graphical terms using graphs to which the graph theory can be applied in this way. So this is one of the articles which is in the encyclopedia. At the end of the article, there is a graph, so you can move there, and this is what you get. All the dots are different articles in the encyclopedia. The arrows in different colors are connecting these dots. This is meant to be the equivalent of the big structural view that was offered by Diderot and D'Alembert. I can use different colors, why they only add one. The different colors represent different kind of links between the articles. Of course, the meaning of these links depends on of the contents of the encyclopedia. This should be pretty obvious for people working in my field. That is history of economic thought. We have analytical links, a methodological one concerning people or concerning factual events and so on. But in another kind of encyclopedia, of course, you could change them into something completely different. For instance, if you want to have an encyclopedia of jazz musicians, for instance, you would have links something like us being playing with, or I don't know, executed music by, and these sort of things. Okay, this graph is meant to represent the genealogical links. Wasn't it 20? 20 minutes altogether? Yes, it is. Okay, and you showed me 5. Okay. Well.
We stop at 5:02, so you've got enough.
Okay.
You have another 5, and then we've got 10 minutes for questions.
Okay, okay. Okay, very quickly. Sorry for wasting time. This tool is not only meant to represent what is going on, but of course it is an instrument for navigation. If you click any of these links, it will take you to this article. It conveys quite a lot of information, because if you move on the label, you have the abstract and another few things. The graph can be filtered by a number of criteria. For instance, we can only visualize if we want this or that kind of links or this or that kind of entry. There is a time scale which is applicable. We can have as many generations as we like, but of course the more we have, the more complicated the graph is, and the more difficult it is to interpret it. Also, the cross-references which are inside the articles can be represented graphically, and this is what you would see. So if we have the labels, we can see that the central entry is connected to these ones here, which are in turn connected to the other ones, and so on. So we can expand it as much as we like. Also, the bibliographic references are interpreted in this way. So we have in a similar fashion, we have the references cited in this article. If we move here, we can see, or to any other one, sorry about that. Well, anyway, you can move around the web of references. This offers some new facilities for the search engine, because you can search words as usual, but since there are some structural links connecting the various entries, the entries will appear grouped in some clusters that do make sense. This is the result of the search for the term glut, which is specialized in this, a term specialistic in these kind of things. And I can tell you that these groups actually do make sense. The most radical feature in this encyclopedia takes up one of the challenges set by D'Alembert, who said, well, if you look in different ways at the map, you can see different things, because you can change your perspective, you can go deeper or less deep, and so on. And this brings me to the problem that actually different kind of readers can see different things in this connection between articles. Basically, this connection, these links that I draw, reflect an interpretation of the connection between facts, people, concepts, and so on. And there is absolutely no reason why the readers should agree with my interpretation of the various theories. So what we have been doing was to make it possible for readers to go into the system, change anything they like, and compare the results. So you can add some more links or take out some others and so on, and see what is the resulting graph. So you can compare graphically different kind of interpretation. Basically, this means that the encyclopedia is not just an instrument for representing, visualizing, and organizing and navigating an encyclopedia, but it also turns into an analytical instrument, because it forces me as an encyclopedist to make sure that the system I'm working out is consistent, because I would see if there are any gaps or any redundancies and so on. My readers are also expected to do the same kind of work, that is, check my consistency, and they can work out different kind of interpretation and see what happens, basically. Okay, I'm nearly run out of time, so I just give you if you want to explore with it, I'll give you the access details, which are this here. Well. Well, anyway, here you have the access data, and you can try. There are some limitations, of course. The main one is that the construction of the graph is painfully slow. So we will have to work it completely out again. Well, we know where the problem might be, but we didn't dare to change it before the conference because we would have made a mess. Well, the search engine still hasn't got any Boolean search. We have some more ideas we want to implement, but anyway, this is the basics. Please don't ask me any technical questions because I only know that the graph is made in using Java in some way, but the responsible for that is that guy. If you have any questions, just send them to me, and I'll pass them on to him. Okay.
There should be a microphone somewhere.
You can just speak loudly.
I dare say.
Does it work?
They said there was a mic. It's coming over now.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's not. Oh, yes, it is.
Thank you. Hi, Daniel Gorin from Phase 6. I was wondering, or maybe I missed it, is it possible to use this visualization engine with any data, with our own data, or only with this particular encyclopedia?
Well, in principle, it is possible to apply it to any kind of knowledge that has to be classified. At the moment, if you want to do so, you have to go through the guy who has done that, because the various classifications are not customizable yet. But in principle, it is possible, yes.
Any other questions? Perhaps you could go back over.
I actually
right.
use the tool in my teaching, of course, in a very simplified. This was worked out for highly trained professionals, basically. So I have an audience. I can expect they are clever enough to spend some time and understand all the tricky bits if they want to. But I actually have simplified it very much for my students. Only one kind of link, different kind of lectures, and so on, and it works fairly well.
Is it possible to license the visualization?
I think it will be. We are working in that way, but well, the idea is to make it accessible in the future. Now I'm just testing the idea, basically.
I have two very short questions. Vladimir Benko from Slovakia. One is, what is the size of the encyclopedia you have processed by now, in number of entries?
Yeah, by now it's fairly small, about 80 entries or so. In principle, there shouldn't be any problem, but it is already too slow now, and so that's why we have to change the graphical tool.
And my second question is a practical one. How long will this ID and password work?
Sorry, how long?
How long will the ID and password work forever, or it's somehow limited in time?
Oh no, it's working. I'm not planning to take it down, so you can play with it.
Thank you.
And actually, there is a video. If you look once you are in, if you look for an article called "Features and How to," there are some videos explaining how this is done.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thanks very much. Thank you.